So we've saved the swatches, and now we're ready to move on to part 3 of the tutorial and start tracing the PNGs that we created. Create a new document for the actual final artwork, and 1920 by 2160 to match our PNG. Create. Okay, and then what I'll just do is drag and drop the darkest of my PNGs in. I'm also going to go back to my swatches and load the swatches that we saved, and they're here under user defined, and there it is, self-portrait of the ones that I want. Here's my pattern that I did, and then those other custom colors I did. So those are ready to go here for us. I brought in the image, it's on layer 1. I'm going to lock that. I'm also going to name it. To do the tracing, I recommend using putting a blending mode that might make things easier. And so under transparency here, the transparency palette, I have the image selected. There are lots of things you can use here to help you, when things are overlaid one on top of the other, be able to see through something. So using a blending mode so that if you can still see what you're tracing, both what you're tracing and what your final artwork is. So I'm going to apply a difference blending mode. Then I'm going to lock that layer, and I'll create a new layer, and I'm going to put it underneath the threshold layer. So that's actually what I'm going to be drawing on. All right, so I'm going to select my pattern swatch as my fill. I'm going to take out the stroke, and now we'll just start tracing. So we'll use the pen tool to do that, and I'll zoom in a little bit. It can be kind of rough to begin with, right? Because we can go back with the pen tool to, fill in the blanks and edit the tracing however we want in the end. And we can change from sharp corners to bezier curves if we want. And here again, I'm just gonna, as he recommends, just kind of be a little rough here. Okay, so there's still some areas that I included in there, and we'll trace over that with one of the colors of the pattern here. So using the beige in this case. So before I do that, I'm going to rename this my layer just so I don't lose track. And so we'll have a pattern. I'll lock that and make a new layer here, and we'll call this beige. Okay, so I'll switch to my beige color and zoom in a little bit here and trace these highlights. And I did a little bit of step 7 where we smooth stuff out. Okay, so we'll do the next layer then. We'll go back here, we'll bring in the next one, and let's see, not a lot of difference between those two, so maybe I'll do the 110 here. I'll bring that one in, new layer, I'll make a new layer for that. And now let's move that to the new layer. Okay, and then we'll call this one threshold 110. Do the same thing. I will put this in place. I'll give it some sort of blending mode so I can see. I'll turn off all the other layers. I'll lock that one now. Make a new layer. Put it where I want to in order to trace it. And so this one will now be, we will use the blue. And when I do the highlights now, it's going to use the pattern. So I'll call this pattern highlight. All right, so in my swatches, change back to the pattern. And notice when I do want to put in a curve, I'm selecting near the sort of the fat part of the curve. Go in here to my glasses, start there, and then in order to get this curve, I'll go to the middle of the curve and use a Bezier pull out. And then in the middle of the curve to give that kind of soft curvature and end it. Again, sort of the middle of the curve to get the curvature. Like that, kind of in the middle there, if that's the middle. There, and end that. And now if we turn on all those colors, we begin to see something like this. And now I'll just go through and do the other two tracings with the other two color combinations. And I'll just fast forward through that. Okay, then so for the highlight of this one, I use the blue color. So this was this was my mustard. Let's do that again, mustard, and this will be the blue highlight. Save, and then we'll do one more. We'll do one. Why don't we do threshold 14? And voila, that's basically it. Some final touches. What I've done is created a new layer down at the bottom here with kind of a background and some text. And I think what's good here is that is when some of the, like the background color, if I turn that off, bleeds into the figure a little bit and picks up one of the other colors that actually make up the image. And so that's what I've done here. I've chosen the same color as my temple here to bleed in, and we can look at some other options. I mean, we can see, look at what that mustard is, but then that's kind of a lot, and there's not a lot of definition there. Or the green is not too bad, right? Picks up some of that. But this one I think is kind of nice because it's a fade, more paler color, and the other ones pop when they're on top of it. So, and then there's also another version that I did here earlier. So very similar, not as detailed, similar sort of thing. A little bit of some other different colors. And of course, if you end up not liking your colors, and you can always go back and edit them. For example, if I wanted to change my mustard color to something else, I can select that swatch, and what I can do is select a couple of ways we can do this. We can select all the or have all the layers that have the mustard unlocked, and go to color and edit this however we sort of want. Maybe it's something like that instead, and save the swatch again if we so desire. All right, so have fun, experiment. Again, I urge you to experiment with different colors, experiment with the size of this pattern. Maybe try something that's not just 4x4 to make that pattern, but 6x6, 8x8, which would make a coarser pattern. And definitely find a good view of yourself that you like, that reflects your post-midterm state. All right, have fun. See you guys next class.